All right, welcome back, everybody. Primal Athletics Radio. We are re-engaging. It's been a while, been probably a year since we put out an episode. So coming back with kind of a fresh spin on things, a lot of new topics to dig into. Here with Eric, who you've all heard before, and Levi, which is probably a new voice for some of you. So Levi, say what's up so they can get acquainted.
How's it going, guys? My name's Levi Daniels. I've been doing CrossFit for quite a while, since 2003 or so. It was introduced to me in special operations. When I was going through the pipeline, we kind of grabbed onto it early, and they introduced it to us. And ever since then, I've ran with it. I never looked back. So I did that starting 2003, and then I took it with me wherever I went. I made a lot of good progress, but also a lot of big mistakes along the way. And those mistakes translated to injuries and getting setbacks and whatnot. But I wish that I would have had a fast track to doing it the right way from the beginning, because back then there was a lot of egregious mistakes that went on, and the execution of it, just because people didn't know so much about it as they do now. So I think that there's a blessed opportunity here to actually learn it the right way, especially when you're going to a gym that knows what they're doing. From special operations, I was also a combatant diver, which I also led as a cadre in combatant dive school, and I was also a professional spear fisherman, which that had a lot of big carryover through everything that I've done. So I've remained pretty physical throughout my entire adult life, and it's played a critical role in everything that I've done. So I feel like I'm in a very good spot from all that all the benefits that CrossFit has done for me to sit here today and have some legs to stand on.
How long have you been So for those listening, I'm sure some of you have met Levi in class, either here or in Milford. How long have you been coaching in general, just for our members if they haven't really got a background on it?
Right. So I've been coaching since 2008, where I got my level 1 in 2008. And after that, I started coaching regularly from about 2009 on. I was in Hawaii to start off, and from Hawaii, I coached at a few gyms in there, CrossFit Oahu and CrossFit Kailua, and then CrossFit Waipio, and then I made my own gym on the North Shore of Hawaii, where there was quite a humongous element of like pro surfers and high-level jiu-jitsu and UFC fighters that were a big demographic of my gym. So it was a pretty good spot to test the waters with how it would translate over to even high levels of performance. And every single person that I saw do it had great takeaways from it. So since then, I've only grown more and more passionate about it and more convinced. However, done right is the asterisk, that if you execute this in the right way, there's nothing more powerful as a program.
Yeah, I feel. I think it's cool. So the kind of the synopsis behind us, relaunching with this episode, we wanted to kind of all, come to you, the listeners, with how we got here, our path, and like our coaching philosophy through. We've all come different paths, specifically with like Levi's military background and Eric with the businesses, and I'm coming from like a college sport background, and we all kind of have this different view on maybe how to administer in the details, but at the core, we all very much believe in the methodology, and I think a lot of our episodes in the future are going to be piggybacking on, why we believe in the methodology and how to best execute it, so that you guys can maybe take something away from it in terms of understanding what we do a little better.
Yeah, I didn't even realize until now, but it is kind of like we have background of like special operators and pro surfers and mixed martial arts, and then sports background of college, and then I was like just personal training, moms and just regular old, average Joes out of like a Planet Fitness and a Gold's Gym. So it's kind of cool how we all have
covering all the bases there.
yeah. And the methodology though can be applied to all of those.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Those people. So.
Yeah, I think that's the magic in a lot of ways of CrossFit is the applicability, regardless of age or income bracket or even physical prowess.
Right.
And just real quick for updates on Primal Athletics at large, we have gotten a third gym recently in Pepperell, Mass, which is recently dubbed CrossFit Pepperell again, right?
Yeah, we just reaffiliated this week actually. So back on they were originally CrossFit Pepperell, and then de-affiliated, became Bridge Fitness, and so now we're back to CrossFit Pepperell.
Oh, big news.
Yeah, big news. New coaches, new faces, a lot of new members. So we figured it was fitting to, kind of refocus the podcast as well and start giving you guys some content that hopefully is beneficial, to supplement not just your physical training, but also give you some cognitive stuff too. So that can kind of bring us to topic of the day, and we've already somewhat delved into that, but we're going to do our best to kind of keep this open conversation. But today, I guess for the main thesis of what we want to talk about is kind of our personal philosophies with fitness in general. We're all CrossFit educated and certified, and that's what we teach and that's what we live. But in the details, maybe we all have slightly different views on things, or maybe not. So we'll kind of figure that out, person by person, and I think it'd make for some meaty conversation.
Yeah, I think we all are pretty similar on the philosophies, but maybe we approach it a little bit different in our approach to the athletes and how we coach them and stuff. So
yeah, I know for sure. Like Levi in particular, I've learned a lot, even in the recent couple months watching you coach and just being in constant conversation regarding what your approach is and what you prioritize for people. And I don't know, it's nice to have a community of coaches who are all willing to share.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their wisdom.
Yeah.
You want to maybe kick it off with what you kind of prioritize with coaching philosophy and fitness philosophy?
Yeah, of course. Well, I think the meat and potatoes of CrossFit in general, as well as what the philosophy is originally intended, is that, and I think it's overlooked sometimes, is that you should establish pristine virtuosity of movement as by far your highest priority. And sometimes that's just said without actually being really applied. And I think the better we can get to the truest expression of that statement, the better off we'll be. And I don't think that it's any coincidence that you see the top of the food chain of any sport all applying that principle, because they'll have longevity, they'll move with efficiency, they don't get hurt. So this is no different, especially when we're adding all these different elements of athletic prowess in there, that it actually, I think, is even more exaggerated, because there is an abundance of opportunity to either get really strong or get really strong but then really hurt. So I think if we take a step back and look at that as priority one is always going to be, I know we have on the workout, sometimes we always see 4 time or 4 rounds or 4 weight. Really, in my eyes, it's always for quality. But those are, if your quality is high, those are your secondary objectives. And I feel like with that done right, that there is, and it's not just feel, that I've seen, and I'm a testament to it, and all the athletes that I've ever seen do really well with it, that's quality first is what allows them to achieve the highest amount of potential they can. And I think that it's well worth looking back and redialing in if somehow that, like we are apt to do, we all slip off of that and start chasing weights or times or everything else before that. So that's my kind of outlook, and I suspect that it's very similar to everyone's here.
Yeah,
I see so.
And I think it's interesting that you've been around CrossFit for so long. Like I started following it in like 2007, and even at that point,
Yeah.
it was still kind of the Wild West where like people were just, I don't care where
Right.
my knees are necessarily as long as my hips are below my knees.
Well,
And
back then it was that there wasn't so much technique coaching out there.
Right.
It was still brand new, and it's astonishing just how much the movement in general has evolved in such a short amount of time.
Right.
Like when you look at, for example, the 2007 CrossFit Games, even the winner, James Fitzgerald, was an abomination of movement.
Right.
And he was like, we could go to any random gym and there'd likely be someone that could beat James
Right.
Fitzgerald.
And
So
it was always in the virtuosity was always like in the original methodologies of
Yeah,
CrossFit, but
of course,
but people were very like, I think they just got excited and were like, I want to push hard, and
yeah,
that's the priority.
and that's a human inclination too. So I've
Right.
been there.
Yeah.
I've been there plenty of times myself where I didn't keep that at the forefront. But it wasn't because, it was more so because, in my instance at least, in many of the instances that I saw, is that people were not exposed to it enough to recognize what virtuosity was versus what is bad movement versus good movement. Is they just don't have they're not savvy enough to know. And that's where I think that another recipe for success with this stuff almost has to be, you have to go into a gym. You have to get taught. It's the same as if you were going to try and learn jujitsu on your own. You could get so far looking at YouTube videos, you can get so far learning gymnastics on your own, but in order to properly, truly learn it, that it's going to be an impossible thing to do on your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not to extend this out too long, but it's also, it's good to know that the gym that you go to knows what they're doing. That's why I think that this is a really blessed place to be, because all the coaches here I've found really work hard to pound that point in.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case, but here it definitely is.
Do you have any, listening to that, do you have any maybe like offshoots or slight variations on, that philosophy of coaching or the methodology at large? Counterpoint to Levi, are you guys pretty congruent with that?
No, I definitely agree with that. And I think like with me, it comes from more of like a consistency, or the way that I came about believing that is kind of a long-term consistency thing. So like my big thing is trying to get people to do this for the rest of their lives. And so, you could burn out really quickly by just pushing hard every day, not worrying about technique and stuff. And so, I also came from like a personal training background where it was always like very dialed into how you're moving and all that. And so when I found CrossFit, I was just assumed that's also the case. And then, you see high level performers not moving well in the beginning, but now it's such a high level that everybody at the games is moving extremely well, because eventually everybody comes to the conclusion that that's the most efficient and safest way.
And you won't be long in this game unless you start heading that direction too. You just aren't going to have the longevity to be able to sustain it. And that's why I feel like you hear people are like, CrossFit's dangerous, this is dangerous, clean Olympic lifting's dangerous. And my response to that is none of that stuff. None of this stuff is dangerous.
Right.
It's bad movement patterns that are dangerous.
Right.
And that's the slippery slope to avoid.
Yeah. And that's, keeping people consistently here and really changing their trajectory of their life and their health does require good quality movement. And that's kind of, that consistency piece is the big part of kind of where I come from. And then also, I think having fun is also a part of that. So
it has to be.
With my kind of from the beginning, I wanted to create a place where people can come have fun and also work hard, because you're not going to stick with anything if you don't like doing it.
And that's where that magic of consistency comes in.
Yeah. And so trying, in the programming, trying to come up with workouts that you look at and you want to do, at least most of the time.
You get eager to come in for.
Yeah. And so that's part of it. And then, just meeting people where they're at. Like I think it's important to, if someone's coming in and they've been eating fast food their whole life and they've never worked out before, then just baby steps.
Yeah, digestible changes.
Yeah,
so to get it in the right direction.
So those are kind of like my philosophies, I'd say, is like building consistency through moving well and having fun, and then meeting people where they're at. So whether you're a top collegiate athlete coming in here after your career, or someone who's never worked out before, being able to meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
And that's like woven right into the mission statement here with Primal Athletics, like having that inclusive environment with qualified coaches, and then that last line in the mission statement, having you thrive into your 90s.
Right.
This is like, yeah, it's cool to like hammer CrossFit for a year, but it's cooler to get the proper dose of fitness for 60 years or more.
And that's consistency, because I don't even think it's arguable that the biggest recipe for success is consistency, even more so than virtuosity.
Yeah.
Consistency is where virtuosity happens.
Right.
So I think that would be the single most important ingredient.
Yeah. I like with my phys ed background too, that's enough, like coming from my journey. I was teaching phys ed beforehand, before CrossFit even started. Not before CrossFit started, but before it started in my life,
Yeah.
And a big part of that education was dealing with the huge change in skill levels. You have a class of kids, and there might be kids who can't even pick up a ball, and there might be kids who can throw an 80-mile-an-hour fastball, and you got to figure out how to get them all engaged and teach them all. So I definitely feel that in the CrossFit space and with coaching, that's a huge part of finding success and helping athletes be successful. And then even from a bigger perspective with me, I really do enjoy and am very conscious of what benefit to somebody's lifestyle and specifically their character fitness can have. Yes, it definitely improves health markers. Yes, it definitely makes them move better, longer, stay more functional longer. I also think the undercurrent of all that is it gives them more, more cognitive tools. It makes them more disciplined. Yeah. It gives them a calmer demeanor. It makes them have more self-confidence.
Yeah.
And I think those things are often overlooked, especially like CrossFit's, unparalleled in that you do something hard every single day and you do it with a community. There's no way that that's not beneficial to your character.
Yeah. Well, in addition to the cognitive enhancement, I started off, of course, probably like a lot of people, where I was just going in for like the physical benefits of it all. I had an addiction to being as strong and as fast and as fit as I could be, and that's what I was going all in for. But as I got older, I realized, look, this stuff has even more so than the physical benefits you get from it, which became more important for me, is that it pales in comparison to the mental benefits you get. You'll have less anxiety. It's the most potent antidepressant on the face of the planet. You'll think clearer. You'll literally be smarter from this stuff. So for me, that even more so outweighed the physical benefits. Was just how much more mental clarity I had, and how like the mood enhancement that it has for me, but also developing the strength of character to go into challenging things and persevere despite the challenge.
Yeah, it's funny that the business is the same as the fitness, or I guess, but so like I would never have been as successful creating a gym if I wasn't working out consistently throughout this time. And
right, they're like parallel lines.
Yeah, because it just reinforced all the hard work, the ethics type stuff that is needed to run a business, basically. So
it's like in our coach's room back there, there's that old Glassman quote from way back when, and it's something to the effect of, self-development, industriousness, discipline are all best and easiest learned in a gym.
Yeah.
And it's just like a good, maybe not the easiest place, because some days it is really difficult, but it's like a training ground for the rest of your life, And, and even if people aren't conscious of that, it doesn't negate the effects of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is like in the long term, I think it is one of the easiest ways because like life will throw challenges at you and like you can choose your challenges or eventually it's going to hit you hard without your consent basically.
Right.
And you know, there's a lot of quotes and I'm probably butchering that, but I think choosing your hard every day is a lot easier than like letting
It's gonna
yourself
get
go
thrown
and
at
then
you.
suddenly you have diabetes or you know your character is not at all who you want to be and so
Yeah.
I think you choose your hard basically.
Yeah. What was one more that I was gonna say on that point, and it's kind of escaping me. Lost it.
Well, when you're
Flew out of my
going in
brain.
every day and you know that you're going to take yourself to a place of suffering, but yet you choose to, and you not only have the willpower to get in the car, you have the willpower to make it to the gym, you have the willpower to warm up, knowing you're going to get into a pretty painful place. And that's, of course, I think that's going to translate over to things that are rather daunting in other parts of your life aren't going to be so because you're used to giving yourself sort of an environmental hormesis every single day with giving yourself an enormous physical challenge, and that so it becomes more second nature just to persevere through difficulties.
It came back to me, and it's on par with what you're talking about. So we've talked about this in prior episodes, but the idea of GPP or general physical preparedness, like the whole CrossFit methodology is built to equip people with GPP. And I think, you know, even a bigger version of that would be maybe saying like instead of just general physical preparedness, it's like this general spiritual preparedness, right?
Yeah.
When you're in that like hormetic effect every day and you do something challenging, you're going to be able to take on whatever is coming down the current for you. And I think, you know, tying this back to just coaching philosophy, I try to fold that into lesson plans every day, even if it's subtle or even if it's a couple seconds of, you know, strategic talk with the class,
Yep.
Or hey, we're going to try to come off this rower and be composed when we walk to the bar, something even as simple as that. Folding those ideas into a lesson plan and into classes regularly to give people those tools, even if they don't realize they're getting them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that reminds me, like if you go to like so many pillars of like success or fulfillment or whatever you want to call it, happiness, are like so many kind of pillars are here in a CrossFit gym. Like if you go to a, you know, life coach or holistic coach in some sort or a guru, whatever, they're going to tell you like you need spiritual health, community health, physical health, and mental health. And so many of those things are addressed in a CrossFit
Yeah,
gym.
absolutely. Covers those bases well.
Yeah, like working out with people, the social environment, the like we were saying, the mental, and you can even, I mean, some people think of this as like a meditation where you're getting
for sure. I was about to say that.
yeah. So there is so many things that are covered with this, you know, and it can, I think there are also, you know, people or athletes that'll just get hung up on one thing and it's just like athletic performance and they let go some of the other areas of their life and then it, you know, spins out of control. So I think that balance is super important. And so it can get out of whack in a CrossFit gym for sure, but it's also really easy to get a nice balance.
Yeah. Well, I've thought, and this is a cliche for a long time, but I think sometimes cliches ring really true, is that when it's all tied together, it's all physical, mental, and spiritual. You can't have one without the other. If your body's wrecked and you're on the top, you're not going to be at the top of your game, mental and fit and spiritually, and vice versa. Like when I come in here, when you said that some people think of this like a meditation, I absolutely agree because I think really what meditation is for me is anything that puts me into the present. Mm-hmm. Any activity I do, whether that's if I'm skydiving and about to jump out the plane, there's no thoughts of what I'm going to do tomorrow. Right. There's no thoughts of what I did yesterday. The only thoughts in my head are about what's going on right there, right now. Same thing if I'm in the middle of a heavy set of 5 squats. There's absolutely no nonsense in my head except for exactly what my body's doing, exactly like where my knees are, where my chest is, what kind of abdominal pressure I have. Everything is zapped right into that moment. And I think that we're all just chasing that sense of presence that seems like it's so effortless to get here in a gym like this.
Right.
And the difficulty for me, I think that's a hack into the deepest forms of meditation. The difficulty for me is stillness. But this is, I think, an excellent training ground to get to a place of stillness and still have that sense of presence.
Yeah.
It's the easiest meditation I can think of.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
it's fun.
Yeah.
So you do it repeatedly. That's back to the consistency thing.
Yeah.
Find a way to get there every day, you know.
Right.
Yeah, we had a member who was big into meditation. He sent me like a couple like guided meditation
Yeah.
audio things, and it just never grasped me because I couldn't get in that presence,
Right.
like you were saying. And like I would be thinking about, you know, oh, this person's voice is weird, or
Right, exactly,
what am
yeah.
I doing tomorrow? And like, whereas, yeah, if I'm like, you know, squatting or doing a tough workout, that's
Right.
there's
None
nothing
of
else
those
that's gonna
thoughts are there.
Yeah.
That's but I think anyone that's doing it right, like you're not going to see people holding conversations as they're doing a set of 20 squats.
Right.
They're going to be only in that moment. Nothing else matters.
Right.
Sometimes you'll see people that aren't doing it right, that are talking to their friend beside them, and to me that's unbelievable. I'm like, how is this even happening? It's like,
Heresy.
right.
Yeah. Right on. Well, I think we can kind of wrap it up there at least as a first return episode, and just to give you guys all a taste of, you know, kind of how we're going to try to make these conversations flow. And we're going to be bringing all different types of topics regarding performance and nutrition and sleep, you know, how to supplement different exercises and different programs into CrossFit. If there's anything also that you guys want to hear, the listeners in particular, I know somebody's asked about the breathing protocol that we just did a seminar with Levi, and I've had 2 people ask it about a podcast specific for that.
Yeah.
So we'll do something on that, the breathing seminar. But yeah, keep your eyes and ears out. And if you like this episode, please feel free to share the content. It will be up in video format on YouTube and also in audio format on all your major streaming platforms. So once again, Primal Athletics Radio, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time around.
All right.